Hello, welcome back to Flower Juice. My name's John McDonald, and today we're going to make a small dried arrangement for going on a coffee table. Now, I wanted to use this container. This was a container I was given as a gift a couple of years ago, and we've been using it for keeping eggs in, but it's actually a plant pot. You can see in the bottom that there's a hole, so this could be planted up. What we're going to use as our mechanic today is this Agra wool. Now, Agra wool is basically it's a bit like loft insulation, so it's like a rock wool, and we can use that to create our base for our design. Now, we're going to make this with dried flowers. The great thing about that is we don't actually need to have any kind of heavy base as such. The actual container is a heavy base. I'm wedging that in, so that is creating our base with that. It does have like a layer in it. You can see that it layers in such a way. So in a way, it would be better if this was on its side rather than lying on its back. So I think what we'll do is we'll just quickly change that. So the Agra wool is really good. It's eco-friendly but in one way it's not so eco-friendly because it takes a lot of heat to create. But it is something that you can reuse, and ultimately you can let it go into your compost heap as well. So I think it's interesting that we're looking for different ways to support flowers and different ways to be maybe more sustainable and environmental moving forward with flowers. So yeah, this is better. This is going to be so much easier for me to place stems in. When it's side on like that, it doesn't work quite so well. Now this is the other thing I'm going to use, is I've got a little twig here, and we can use this for making guide holes as well. So we've got our base, we've got our Agra wool. Doesn't matter about the hole because there's no water going in it. And what are we going to have? Well, in our arrangement, we're going to use a mix of different things. And really the reason that I was thinking about this is last year I was using a lot of this limonium. So this is statice. There was a whole load that was left and I just hung it up. So I just made it into small bunches and hung it up with lots of air movement. So this was really something that I was conscious that I had and I wanted to use. So the other flowers really are just kind of like a bit of a mix. But what I thought would be quite nice was making a little arrangement that is like Mother's Day in mind, or just a nice kind of coffee table sort of arrangement. Now, this is a little collar that I've had for ages. And I think the thing about dried flowers is it's a little bit difficult sometimes to deal with the fact that you don't actually have any greenery. So that becomes a bit of an issue. So by adding this collar, we're kind of, and actually adding that little bit of straw, we're kind of coming round from that. It's becoming less of a problem. So really now, we're just making a posy arrangement. I don't want it to be particularly wild or very, very stylized. So kind of probably in between. This is another type of limonium. This one, back in the 80s and the 90s, we used a lot. And that really is good as a filler. But in some ways it became a victim of its own success. It became too well used, and then you see it too much and you start to hate it. So a bit like Gypsophila, actually. Gypsophila was very much a victim of its own success as well. So I'm just putting in some kind of filler bits that I had in my dried box that I use. I never throw anything away, so I've also got some pieces like this, which is from a freeze-dried rose, but it gives us the leaves. If we just split that down, we can just tuck a leaf or two into there. But I think if you're a kind of crafty person, you don't tend to throw things away. You kind of keep things close and then decide when the time is right, this is the moment to use it. So with this limonium, I want to bring it in, and we're going to go for a kind of nice dome shape. So this is multicoloured, and I'm not going to try and stick in every single stem. It's easier just to bring them into like a little bunch like this, and then add the bunch. The other thing as well is I'm not overly worrying about how this goes into the base. This is not going to be moving around, it doesn't need to travel, so as long as it's secure in the design, then that's the main thing. It'll get to a point where the materials will actually start to hold themselves. Obviously you can use floral foam if you want for artificials and for drieds. Another thing that people used to use way back was clay, and I used to think, oh, it was a special type of clay. It really was just clay. So you would put a wedge of clay in, arrange all your flowers, and then just let that go dry. And you could use that for dry or artificial flowers. The only problem with that is once you've done it, it's done. It's pretty much set. There's not much changing of that once it's actually dried off. So I do like being able to reuse things, and with these dried flowers, well, they were fresh when I got them. They got used then, and now they're getting a reuse. The other thing as well to remember is dried flowers are not going to last forever. You're going to create something that's going to give you, okay, better value than fresh in the sense that it will last longer, but essentially it's not going to last for years and years. I would say you're going to make an arrangement and just have it for a few months, or a few months, 6 months, depends where you put it. You want to keep them out of strong lights, especially if they're more on the colours. And you want to have it somewhere that it's not getting bumped and bashed. So there is some really good advantages with using dried flowers, but they're not forever. Saying that, artificials are not forever neither, because they will just get dirty and you will need to change them. So these little grasses are really just to add a change of texture into the design. So you can see we're just building this up, and we're just going for really like a classic kind of posy style. Now, I do have some roses, and these are freeze-dried roses, and these are really just going to be the thing that gives us a highlight. So these came as single heads, but what I've done is I've taken them and wired them and just stem text them as well. So that's giving them an artificial stem. But I think having the roses just takes this up a level from being too much texture. You need something in there that's a little bit bigger. So definitely the roses do that job. This one was on a stem, but that doesn't matter. So really, this is giving you quite a kind of vintage look. And as you can see, it's a bit messy to do, but it is fun to do. If you have materials like this that are a little bit tired, you can just tuck them in and use them more as a filler. We're just about there. So really, all I've done is I've basically tried to work the materials in a nicely spaced out way so that we can get the benefit of all of them. Adding like the filler materials like the limonium first is a good idea. Anything structural like the collar, that goes in first. And really your kind of finishing ones were then your roses, because they're expensive, because they're special, and they're a little bit delicate as well. We don't want them to get damaged, but we also want the placement of them to be accurate. So now we've got that, they're basically spaced out. I do have a little bit of this amaranthus that we can just tuck in as well. I'm going for the more is more. And as you can see, we don't even need this to go down into the foam. It is being supported by the other flowers. I think we kind of forget just the variety that there is with dried flowers, but also what you can dry yourself. So there we go. Just going to give this a quick wee tidy. This is why I kind of tend to keep my flowers, or my dried flowers, in a box lid. You're working from one space, you kind of help to limit the mess of it, and it's just easier. So this container was quite a traditional sort of container. It's giving us the weight to hold these dried flowers nicely. We've gone for a compact style, which is easy to do, and then this is all about textures and colours. So we've gone for a real mix of colours, which I really love. I think that's a nice combination if you want something that's quite cheery. And we have basically a kind of romantic traditional design that's just a bit fun. It's not going to last forever, but you can enjoy it for what it is. And this would go great on a low coffee table. And really, you don't need to give it any care. Just don't bash it, basically. And there you go. So we have a simple dried flower arrangement. If you've never made an arrangement or never made a dried one, then give it a go. It's quite easy to do. It is a different way of working. They are a little bit more brittle, but the results can be quite good fun. Now, if you've enjoyed this video and you're looking for a little bit more inspiration, then why not have a look at the video that we've linked in our description box for this video. It's also another dried arrangement, but in a more modern style. So if you're feeling a little bit more inspiration is in need, then have a wee look there. Now, we really appreciate that you've joined us today. We would love you to subscribe if you've not already done so. It actually makes a big difference to our channel. And if you can like the video, that really helps as well. But we have new videos every week. We'd love you to join us for a future design. And until then, take care.